How's it going, everybody? Welcome to So You Got a Gun. It's the very first episode we're going to do, and today we're just going to kind of hang out with the co-hosts and get things rolling and see how things go. We're going to do a little bio and kind of tell you guys what we're doing and why we're doing it. So my name is Alex, and my co-host name is Matt. Matt, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hey, I'm Matt Williams, guys. Thanks for being here.
Excellent. So this show has kind of come around from a lot of conversations that we've had over the last year or so about wanting to do a show specifically designed and built for kind of the beginner to illustrate and get through some of the mud that you see in the firearms industry. And so the looking forward for this show is to try to decipher some of the things on the industry and make it plain and clear for some of the new people that are involved. It's definitely going to be a journey. So we're going to start off with the basics, and we're just going to continue climbing up the steps. And hopefully you guys hang out with us for the entire time. And with this being the very first show, we really don't know where this is going to go or how it's going to go, but hopefully it goes well. I think that we'll probably start off by just kind of giving you guys an idea of who we are and why we're wanting to do this as an individual. So why don't you key in, Matt? Let us know who you are and why you're wanting to do this, and your training and things that you've had and your experiences in life.
Okay. Quite simply, I think just like anybody else that's carried a gun for a little while, spend a little time in a gun shop or talk with anybody that carries a gun, you start hearing a lot of different information that clashes, things that just don't make sense. I think we've all heard the "you just racked that shotgun" thing, and they're going to find the first window, and jump right out. And hopefully by now that's not true. And if you don't, hey, welcome. That's why we're here, to explain to you why. So I'm here as one of my reasons is I just want people to get good knowledge. I want you to get good information. I want you to be able to dispel some of the bad, what I call gun shop knowledge. So I've been teaching CPL classes in Michigan for a couple of years now, almost 8 years now.
So you're an NRA instructor? I thought everybody was.
Oh God, we're all NRA instructors. By no means does that make, I teach a CPL class. That does not mean I'm an expert on anything. I can teach you what that class actually is a glorified safety lesson. What it's designed to do is show you how to be responsible with your gun and how to safely store it. That class is not designed to teach you how to carry a gun properly. It doesn't go over any of the information like, hey, did you know that you need a gun belt? No, you can't use your Levi belt that you bought at the mall. You can, but you're going to, everybody that carries a gun is going to go, new guy. So
is that why I lose feeling in my hip when I wear my leather belt from Walmart?
Sciatic nerves are hurting everywhere. Yeah. So just a lot of things like that. Those are my big reasons for being here. This is something that Alex and I have talked about for a while, and I'm glad that we're finally deciding to do this.
Yeah, it's been an adventure for sure, trying to get everything squared away.
Yeah. So Alex, why don't you tell everybody if you have any differing reasons from mine? And those are just a few of mine, guys. I can't steal all of his.
So the reason why I'm doing this is kind of the reason why I got into instructing in general, or why I have such an interest in instructing and getting out knowledge to everybody, is I got burned really bad when I first got into guns with some really bad instructors. And I call it the gun derp. And that's what I'm trying to get rid of, is all the derp that you find in the industry, and trying to kind of pick apart some of the ideas of what is good information, what is bad information, and then try to give you guys that information and save you from making the mistakes that we made when we were coming up into the industry. I think every gun guy that I know has an entire box full of holsters that don't work. And so they've made that mistake, and they can come on here and they can talk with you and go, hey, we tried these, they didn't work, and this is why. And more specifically, what I want to try to come across is to get you guys to think about this stuff and problem solve it out and come to the conclusions on your own. But hopefully we can help you come to those conclusions by the knowledge that we've gained over the couple of years. Excuse me. Trying to eliminate the gun show derp, I think, is my biggest reason for wanting to do this.
Awesome. And I think something that should be said is, hey, we're going to throw out a lot of opinions here, and we'll tell you if something is our opinion. We're going to throw out some things that we think are absolutely true, things that are facts, and we might find out later that, hey, we're wrong, because we're open to learning. We're here to grow as students. This is a never-ending learning experience. So we might say something today or tomorrow and realize, because we got better information from somebody, an instructor, or just we read something or we tried something or whatever, we realize, wow, I'm wrong about A, B, C, X, Y, Z. And we'll let you guys know, hey, remember when we said this? Well, we found out that.
Yeah, I think that's really important too, we're growing along with this show. We're a couple of steps away from where we're starting, but we're also growing. We're moving. We're going into new training. We're going into new ideas, and we're developing as well. So we kind of want to make that's kind of clear. We can come back and say, hey, we humbly, made a mistake, and we're going to recant that and say, hey, this stuff actually is pretty cool. So the other thing I think is important to realize is that we're not experts, and we're not or attorneys. Anything that you guys learn is you do at your own risk, because I might have some really stupid ideas. Don't do those. We should have a little disclaimer at the bottom is, do not try this at home.
Right. Use your judgment, guys. I mean, we're going to make a point to give you the best knowledge that we can. I mean, that's what we're here for. I mean, that's the entire goal of this. But there are going to be times where we're wrong. I mean, we're not stupid, but hey, man, we're not experts. We have a passion for this. We have a passion for the knowledge, taking classes. We have a passion for learning. So that's what we're here for, to just we just want to help you bypass some of the major mistakes we've made. Like, hey, instead of going and buying this, Pocket 380, which, hey, if that's your thing, that's great. I'm not saying it's not great, but instead of going and buying the wrong thing, or maybe it's not even the wrong thing, maybe it's just not right for you. We just want to help you. We just want to help you. Go ahead. Sorry.
The good example of that might be the idea of a lot of gun stores like to push revolvers on people right off the bat.
Oh yeah, the 642 hammerless.
Yeah, here, you're a 100-pound young lady. Take this 357 revolver. It'll be great for you.
It's got pink grips. It's a girl's gun.
That's right. So it's not necessarily that the gun itself is bad. It's just that it may not be the right fit. And I think that's important,
Right. So that's what we're here for. We just want to make sure that we can help you get past some of the things like that we spend a lot of money, one, and then time, two. Those are the money you can recoup. The time, once it's gone, it's gone. So if we can help you recoup some of that, or not even recoup, just not lose it, then then we're making part of our goal just on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, Alex?
Yeah, that's one of the things we're going to try to do with the show that I think is really important is we're going to do a big concerted effort to include the people that are watching the show. Our future goals is going to be we're going to try to have hangouts with everybody. Not only are we going to try to do them online, but the people who are local to us, we're going to try to get together with them and hang out with them as well. I mean, if it's a range day, or if it's, hey, we're going to meet up at the local pub and have some burgers and a beer or something like that, we're going to try to do that, because we think that's important to get everybody together so that we can talk, so that we know what you guys are wanting to see and expect, and that we can communicate with you and you can communicate with us, and we can make the show better. The other thing that we would like to do at some point in time is we would like to get our viewers to go to some of the training with us. and then come onto the show and talk about what they learned at that training and give us an AAR of that particular training that we had, so that we have multiple perspectives. You know, Matt has more experience in training than I do with some of the larger companies, more official training. I have a little bit less, and then we're hoping to gather somebody who has even less than that, so that we have multiple viewpoints of why that training worked or didn't work for them. And that's sort of our goal, is to try to get across of an opinion of training, an opinion of how to better oneself. So that's sort of a goal for the podcast, is eventually get to that point. So I don't know how long it's going to take, but that's the goal.
Yeah. And if you're not sure what an AAR is, it's an after action report. So you're just going to come on the show with us. We're going to talk about what you learned. You're just going to give a basic rundown on what you liked, what you didn't like. If you loved everything, fantastic. But you know, the great thing about training is, well, we make a point to find instructors that don't work in absolute things. Like it's always, always, and never, never. We make a point not to train with people like that, because there is not a such thing as never. Sometimes that you may, but pick up what it is that you like from the class. And if something doesn't work for you, then toss it. It's like a buffet. Take what you want and skip on what you don't. So
don't eat the shrimp.
That's that's some of the best parts about training is, man, you get to learn 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 different ways of doing one thing, but there's always going to be that one that you like better. Maybe you practice the other 1 or 2 others that were close, but there's going to be the one that you really like. So that's what the show is. You know, that's what that part of the show will be at the AIRs, just coming on and explaining what you liked and how it worked and what your experience was.
Yeah, I think that's important, is being able to understand that, you know, there's no all answer. And when it comes to training, there's not going to be one miraculous class that you're going to go to that is just going to fix everything. You go to different classes and you glean different things from it. You know, you go to this class and you go, wow, these 5 points that this instructor made really struck home with me, but the rest of the class I didn't really get anything from. And then you might go to the next class and be like, wow, there was only 1 point from that I got. And you might go to some that the whole class made a lot of sense. I remember the first class I took from MDFI, the whole class just kind of blew my mind. And that was pretty cool. And I've taken classes since then that didn't have that. But that first initial one that I took from them, just everything that was being said made all this sense and kind of broke through a barrier that was being stuck in my head. And that was pretty cool. I really enjoyed that. And I think that's something that is important to understand, that whole class dynamic and how they function. And maybe they don't always fit perfectly. I don't know, Matt, you've had a lot more training than I have. You find that with the classes, they don't always quite, you don't, every class doesn't make 100% sense, I guess. I don't know if that's the right way of saying it or not, but.
Well, I think a very good thing to do is always take a notebook and a pen and make sure you're taking notes, because there are going to be things that either you didn't glean all the information that you should have physically when you're on the range, when you're shooting on the line. But if you can reread your notes, sometimes you come back to that and make sense of it. Whenever I take a class, I like to, leave the class, go get a burger and a beer, whatever, and go over my notes. And I like to typically, I don't normally go to a class with a friend, and it's just because I can focus better, because then I get to meet new people, and that's awesome too. I love that. But I like to go over my notes, not maybe write an AAR at the time, but I just want to kind of keep everything fresh in my mind. And that seems to really work for me, especially when I think, man, I really missed this, or I don't understand this drill. And you need to be able to have time to talk to the instructors. And I've never been in a school where the instructor didn't make time. And it doesn't matter which one it was. I've always been very fortunate to have the instructor make time, whether it was at lunch, between drills, whatever, to explain the things that I didn't fully understand. And you need to ask yourself the questions, critically think, well, why are we doing this? Does this make sense? It might not make sense for you in your life, the way you move about in space, but see if you can glean little parts of what you're doing throughout the class.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think the note taking is important too, because I think, you know, a couple of days go by and I can't remember the exact statistic, but you don't quite absorb everything and remember everything from an event until a couple of days have gone by. And going back and looking at those notes and going, oh, yeah, that drill that I was running, I didn't really quite understand. And I look back at it now and I read back through the drill process. I go, and now I kind of get that a little bit better and a little bit more. If you don't take those notes, you're just relying solely on your memory. And maybe you didn't quite remember that the way it was supposed to be. So I think note taking is a good aspect. I didn't start doing that right away. I started doing it kind of further down the road. And I kind of regret it because there was a couple classes I took that I really wish I would have had more notes from them. That it just wasn't my memory a week later scribbling them down,
Yeah, as an old, I'm not extraordinarily old, but as an older guy, I remember how much I like sucked in school, and it was because I didn't take notes. I didn't do my part as much. And the very first professionally instructed class that I took, they made such a point: take notes, and when you're done, when you go home, read over everything you wrote, read everything, and then tomorrow when you're done, read all of your notes. When you get home from this, go over all of your notes again. In your notes, the training classes are so you can go home and practice what you've learned. And if you don't have good notes, you're going to miss out on some of those very important details. So note taking in a class is just as important as what you're doing on the firing line, and it's just as important to watch when you're not shooting, when the other group is up shooting and you're watching. It's just as important to watch them, because you're going to see some things that the mistakes they're making or things that they're doing that are helping them have success. You're going to be able to glean knowledge from that as well. So it's very important to pay attention and take notes.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm gonna pop us back onto track a little bit here, and I want to introduce myself a little bit more, and Matt, you can introduce yourself a little bit more. Give you a little bit of rundown of kind of who I am and what I'm doing. I'm nobody really special. What am I, 31 now? I've been in the firearms industry, actually on the production side, I guess. I own a lubricant company for the last 2 years. It's not very big. It's pretty small at the moment, but this is fine with me. I've been an instructor for 2 years, an NRA certified CPL instructor for a couple of the NRA classes. And once again, the joke kind of returns to who isn't. And So I've done that for a bit. I grew up in northern Michigan, hunting small game and rabbits and shooting 22s and BB guns for the majority of my young childhood. And I didn't really start getting into handguns until I was in my 20s. And what drove me to that point was living in a really bad neighborhood in a rough city and kind of wanting to go, hey, maybe I should protect myself with something besides my big hunting rifle that I can't carry, because then I just look like a crazy person. So I ended up getting my first handgun and made a lot of mistakes between, that first purchase to now, which is about 8 years, I think, is how long I've been carrying. The thing that kind of drove me originally was taking my couple first classes that I took were really nightmares. I took them in the height of the Obama administration when ammo was really expensive, and I took them from a indoor range, and they used the opportunity to instruct people to get more money for their range. So they would kind of go, oh, you didn't qualify, so you need to go buy more ammunition and buy another hour of range time. And then they would do that once or twice. And it was kind of infuriating because at the time I didn't know any better. It was very difficult to process what they were trying to teach me, because they really weren't teaching me anything. They were just trying to get money for their range. And so I didn't really know it at the time. Now, years later, I look back at that, I'm like, wow, that was a complete waste of quite a lot of money. And so that kind of put me on the hunt to try to find better and more information that actually makes sense and is more reliable. And that put me on track with a lot of podcasts that are out there, and some of the uh, instructors that are on the podcast that actually makes sense. If you listen to some of the podcasts that are out there, there's a lot of great ones. There's a lot of instructors on there, and they talk in a way that you can listen to them and go, wow, I can really learn from this guy. And that's kind of how I got on track with taking some of my very first professional classes, as opposed to some of the more non-professional classes that I took prior to the last probably 3 years or so. So that's kind of how it is. I'm a father. I have 3 kids. I work a full-time job, and I'm going to college full-time for being a police officer. I should be done with the academy in about a year. I got a couple classes left I got to do, and then off to the academy. So that's sort of a little brief history about myself. Matt, why don't you jump on and give us a brief history of yourself and kind of your run through the gun industry?
Oh boy.
Brief.
Okay, cool. I'm almost 37 years old. I'm a father of 3 boys. I'm married happily, super happily. I'm lucky that way. I've been teaching CPL classes, let's see, since 2011. I've been carrying since 2003. I've made a lot of mistakes as far as what I think are mistakes as far as gun purchases, because I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't understand the whys of what I was doing. And that's what we were finding out now is so important of, why are you doing this? Why are you buying that? I also work a full-time job, 6-7 days a week. And I own a few small businesses outside of that, and then teaching the CPL classes. So I'm busy, but this is something that I don't think is going to feel like work. This is something that's going to be fun, I've been told that I can stand and talk to a brick wall. So I think that's why Alex got me on the show. The funny story is Alex met me the day I got pepper sprayed. And
Easy face.
Yep. It was by choice. It wasn't because I did something stupid, I promise. It was kind of not a certification, but it was if you're going to carry less lethal, then maybe you want to know what it's like. And well, that's a story for another time, which is very important. But that's how Alex and I met. And I think it was because I was,
I have a video, by the way.
We'll post that sometime, but not the part where the pepper spray didn't work.
Yeah, don't put that
afterwards part where I was like dying. But afterwards, I was just like blah blah blah. I just I was still talking when everybody else was nursing their wounds. So he was like, that guy, co-host. But yeah, that's me in a nutshell, man. I mean, I make a point to get education, and not just in firearms, medical and things like that as well. And that will be for another show. But yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
What kind of training have you taken? Like, what's your class? How many classes have you had? Like professional classes, I guess.
Oh, geez.
Roundabout.
Well, in the last 3 years, I think I've taken, I don't know, 12, 14 classes, maybe. I really, off the top of my head, I don't know. Some of them were 2-day classes. Some of them were one. I think the majority of them were 1-day classes, which they just tend to be easier, especially if you work 5, 6, 7 days a week. If you can get 1 day off, sometimes it's difficult to get time off, and you still have a family to deal with and love and spend time with and a lawn to mow. But most of them are 1-day classes. I have gone out of state and taken classes, and I have gotten great instruction. And if you want to do that, and you've got the money and you've got the time off of work, by God, go train with whoever you want to. But If you can find local instructors like we have been able to, and I don't think we've told you guys yet, we're from Michigan. He's from one side of the state and I'm from the other. I'm near Flint, and you're from or area.
I'm kind of in the middle of nowhere. Lansing, I guess, is probably my closest big city.
Darn Spartans.
What?
Which they're totally fine. Don't worry. I don't care.
Didn't we win this year?
Hey man, I don't really care.
I don't really either.
I don't really care one bit. I think it's all fantastic. Whatever, sports ball. But I don't know where I was going. Sorry, get me back on track, man.
We were just talking about how we met and location of finding a local instructor.
Oh, so we both have found an instructor. Can we say?
Yeah, let's say.
Trek from MDFI. So Michigan trainer, trainmdfi.com. That's who both of us have been spending some time and money with, training with them in different parts around the state. He's hooked up with some other very good instructors that get you into, different things, like we got medical and some other stuff we'll talk about another time. But I mean, as long as you can verify that the instructor that's going to be teaching the class, or whoever owns the school, whatever, that they are a reputable instructor, they are gaining knowledge themselves, you should always ask, especially, I swear, if you're going to get your CPL, CHL, or CCW, depending on what state you're in, you need to ask the instructor, when's the last time you took a class? And not rudely, just, are you keeping up with your instruction? I mean, you wouldn't allow a doctor to give you a heart transplant if the last time they took a class was in 1997. You've got to stay current on these things, right? It's important.
Yeah.
So get me back on track. You take over.
No, that was good. No, I think that's really important. I think one of the things I've heard over and over again while I've been doing instruction is make sure that you're an instructor that is learning, is coming up on new techniques and bettering themselves so that they can. The other thing I think is really, really, really important is if you're taking instruction, whether it's going to a gun range to take instruction from somebody at a gun range. A lot of the gun ranges locally will have their own instructors. Or if you're taking a CPL class, or if you're getting in with big instructors like MDFI, then the one thing that you've really got to be very for is their emergency procedures. And one of the things that is very important is if they start going into their instruction about firearms before they've talked about what's going to happen if there's an emergency, then that would be a big red flag for me. I don't know if I would stick around with that class if I can get them to be like, hey, excuse me, what happens if someone shoots themselves? And they're already going off into how they're instructing about your gun. That's a huge big deal. So try to watch out for that as far as making sure that you're being safe, that they have med kits available, that they have the appropriate med kits. I'm a big fan of tourniquets. And if we're talking about a gunshot wound, you're probably going to need a tourniquet. And I know it's something that we don't talk a lot about, or the industry kind of wants to gloss over, but no matter how we look at this, we're training with a deadly weapon. And if we ignore that that's a deadly weapon, we're bound to make mistakes that we wouldn't normally make if we didn't forget that. So we need to be prepared for what could plausibly happen. And if that means making sure that we have a full med kit available and that the person running it at least has some basic training on how to deal with a gunshot wound. I've been to instructors that don't have medical training, that they just kind of wing it. And I've been to instructors that do. And since then, I've gotten my own medical training, and I can take care of myself if I have to. I would rather not. But, that's a really important aspect, is making sure that that instructor is talking about what's going to happen, how it's going to happen. There's the med kit. It's on my belt. It's in my truck. Here's how it's going to go down. And if that doesn't come up during instruction, during that initial briefing, then I would really caution you against continuing that class. That sounds sort of dangerous on my end.
I've never actually been to a professional class where a medical briefing wasn't the first, within the first couple of minutes of the day. So I think, I hate to say this, but I think that's going to be more prevalent in a CPL class, that you're not going to get that, because I know we talked about this quickly, but it's important. And I'm guilty of this, I have to say. When I became a CPL instructor, I was just a dude that knew how to shoot guns, and I liked guns, and I wanted to teach people what I knew. And it took some time for me to get the information and the knowledge of going to classes and learning. A lot of guys and girls, when they start taking or teaching CPL classes, they're like, there's nothing else for me to learn. I'm going to impart knowledge. And this is a never ending journey as far as learning here. So I don't know about you, Alex, but I can say definitely that in the beginning, I didn't do a medical briefing, but I fixed myself. I wear a tourniquet every day and some gauze on a leg wrap, and then in a class, in a class, I have a regular medical kit, and you have to go over those things and make sure. But again, we don't need to get into the weeds on all that stuff for this show.
Sure.
But yeah. Alex.
So there's some briefing stuff. You guys can kind of get a feel of what we're talking about and kind of what we're going to be doing. This show is not going to really have a script. It's going to be very, I'm going to use a cool word, like synergistic. It's just going to be kind of going where we go. So hopefully you guys get a good feel for what we're trying to accomplish, and you guys will stick around for the next show. We're hoping to have guests on, and we're going to have some cool talks and conversation. But this show was specifically just out there so that you guys could kind of get an idea of who we are and what we do. So I think we're going to kind of tie it up a little bit here. I got one more question from Matt, and I'll answer it when he's done. What is phrase for how this is? What is the next thing you want to learn? Like, what is the thing that you want to get to? Your kind of goal, I guess. Your goal in learning. There we go.
That's a good
question. If it's a class, or if it's a, what's your next step? I know what mine is.
I'd like to take, I'm going to throw out a name, and I'm going to have to wait until way late next year, but I would like to take a class with Will Petty, vehicle CQB class. I meant to do that this year, just things didn't pan out. But yeah, I would love to take a class with Will Petty. How about you?
Yeah.
What's your next
Yeah,
thing?
that's on my list for sure. That just watching the stuff that he's putting out right now, he's on some of the research that he's doing is just amazing stuff.
Yeah, it is.
But
really quickly, because this is so you bought a gun. This is a beginner show. So vehicle CQB is vehicle close quarter battle. So this is really, really close. Things are happening really, really fast. And Will Petty is like a science nerd genius about angles and fighting around cars, and all the science and all the math and all the trajectories and all the other stuff that I can't remember that he talked about that I listened to. He was so cool. But you know what else I'm excited about is taking like super basic classes, so I know super basic stuff, but the better you know it, the better you can do them. The better you can perform your task, and the better you can teach those things. So I'm also excited about that.
Yeah, I am as well. I like to try to take, I don't want to call them refresher courses, but it amazes me that you can take a basic pistol class from 3 different instructors, and each one of those instructors are essentially teaching you the same outcome, but they teach it in a different way each time, or between each instructor, and you learn something different each time you do it. And it kind of amazes me that occurs like that. And to answer my own question, yeah, doing stuff from Will would be awesome. The VCQB stuff is on my list for sure. I think my next really big class is going to be the Dark Angel class, because I haven't gotten into Dark Angel yet. I've done a lot of medical stuff that's not combatant related. It's all like Red Cross training, and I have a friend of mine who's a instructor for EMS. He teaches EMS different things, so I've taken a lot of stuff from him, but nothing as advanced as Dark Angel. So that's my next big thing is Dark Angel, along with just more classes in general. So
you're going to enjoy that class, man. I took that in the spring this year, and I learned a ton. I was actually able to use some of the stuff I learned, like just with my own kids. Like I have 3 boys, man. They're not. We don't even own a video game system in this house. Like they're boys, man. We're surrounded by woods, and they're boys. Like falling out of tree. Like I'm just waiting to set a limb. You know what I mean? It's gonna happen eventually. It'll be a great, horrible day.
I haven't had that experience yet. My daughter broke her arm, but it wasn't so bad you had to set it. It was just a green stick fracture.
Yeah, man, kids are awesome. They're resilient. As long as they know you're going to take care of them,
Right.
they're resilient. So that's all I've got, unless you want to talk about anything else tonight. I think we covered, what we set out to introduce ourselves and give everybody a little background on why we want to do this.
Yeah, I think that's pretty good. We'll tie it off here. I will kind of leave it on a note that we are new. So if you're in the industry and you're looking to do anything with a podcast here, let us know. We might be able to work something out with you. We're hoping that we'll continue to grow, which is important for us. And if you're new to firearms, I hope that you stick around for a little while and can learn some stuff from us. And if you've been in the firearms industry for a while, stick around, because I'm pretty sure that you'll learn some stuff as well. We're not going to focus entirely on new stuff. We're going to try to broaden the horizon quite a bit and just try to make sense of all of what is firearms. I guess it's kind of a weird way to put it, but I think that kind of fits it. So I guess that's the end of the show for now. Come back for the next one. I'm going to try to release the shows on Friday is the time that I'm going to be releasing them. But we'll probably put a schedule up as well for release times and dates and stuff. So keep an eye open. Stick around.
Thanks, everybody.